Okay, we're live. At the end of this video, we'll take a look at MadRamp's innovative pivoting ramp system, the safer, easier way to transport your ATVs and snowmobiles. Stick around. Before we begin, I'd like to give a quick shout out to our friends at the historic Lancaster Motel in Lancaster, New Hampshire. The Lancaster Motel has been serving snowmobilers since the 60s, and they are the perfect eastern trail riding destination for snowmobilers young and old. The Lancaster Motel is right on Corridor Trail 5 in Lancaster, New Hampshire, with plenty of parking for vehicles, sleds, and trailers. Plus, the Lancaster Motel is within walking distance of Crane's Snowmobile Museum, plus restaurants, shopping, entertainment, and more. Click the link in the description to learn more about the Lancaster Motel. Live right now. Good evening and welcome to the podcast. I'm really glad you're here. We've got a really nice lineup of videos and other information just waiting for you here tonight. Before we get started, though, I want to make sure that we're live and that everyone can see my face and hear my voice. If you can see my face and hear my voice, I'm going to ask you to please type a comment in the description area, in the comment area, to let me know that you can that you're connected with this, and just say hi. Let me know where you're from, and I would very much love to hear from you so that I can know that we're operating live and everything is working properly. And then we'll get started with the program. If someone could just make a comment, I'd really appreciate it. While we're waiting for that, I've got a couple of things to tell you about. Number one, we are simulcasting in several different places tonight. Number one, we're simulcasting on the Wheels, Keels, and Snowmobiles Facebook group. That is a group that I do, and this is a great place to view and post about cars, trucks, boats, ATVs, snowmobiles, anything with the motor. So if you want to post items for sale or view items for sale, that's a great place to do it. Now, another place that we're simulcasting is on the Wheels, Keels, and Snowmobiles YouTube channel. This is a YouTube channel that I do. If you like videos about cars, trucks, boats, ATVs, snowmobiles, if you like videos about those things, click the link in the description. That'll take you to the Wheels, Keels, and Snowmobiles YouTube channel, and you can browse the channel and view the videos. I'll ask you to do that after the podcast is over, but the link to both of these places is right in the description of this podcast. Last but not least, before we get started, I am looking for an advertiser for this podcast, and I'm offering a cash reward of either $50 or $100. The amount of the reward will depend upon the dollar amount that the advertiser signs up for when they sign up for a package. Now, if you were the advertiser, you can take the $50 or $100 as a discount on your advertising package. So let's take a look here. Let's get out of this screen, take a look. It looks like we've got some comments coming in. We have Kevin McDonough. Good to see you again, Kevin. I appreciate your coming on here every week. Rick Moore from Brandon, Manitoba, Canada. Jeff Gurink from Holland, Michigan. Steve Freeman, upstate New York. How you doing? Bobby Vensis. Mike Palesci. Josh Gordon. Lonnie Stratus. Starostovic. Tell me if I didn't butcher that. I hope I didn't butcher that, Lonnie, from Port Charlotte, Florida. Dave Connell from Minnesota. Troy Burgess from Arlington, Washington. Bobby Vensis from Haverhill, Massachusetts. Lyndon Dewey and Mark Neerdals. I think, Mark, we've got one of your images on this program a little later, so stick around. You don't want to miss that. So let me change screens here. Let's get started. I wanted to show you what we've got on tap for tonight before we start with the first video. This is the menu for tonight. First item is Bruce Beaurivage's Articat that he won the Kilkenny Cup with back in 1975. I'm going to queue up that video. One click away here. We're going to get the video started. Get your popcorn ready. Let's take a look.
Yeah, Bruce, this is Bruce's sled. Bruce won in the Lancaster Grand Prix. It was what class was it?
Class 4, I think it was.
Class 4, and got his name on the Kilkenny Cup. And this is his actually sled that he raced with.
Wow.
And he still owns it.
Now, what year would that have been?
1975.
Nice.
Kilkenny Cup.
Oh, that's the cup. Oh, wow.
The cup that he won.
Yeah.
Outstanding. Let's see if I can get up on close on that.
Want me to hold it up for you?
Oh, wait, I think I got it. 1975. Gotta get just the right angle. Here we go. 11th Grand Prix in Lancaster, 1975 Supermod 4 class. That's awesome.
You beat the great Herb Yancey.
Wow.
I can remember Herb's hood loosened up in the front and started to lift, and Teddy Wynot was afraid that the hood was going to come undone and fly back on the competitors behind him. So he black flagged him. And Bruce was running second.
He won.
He took it?
The race.
Wow.
Yeah.
So just so you know, that snowmobile was on display, pardon me, that snowmobile was on display at Crane's Snowmobile Museum in Lancaster, New Hampshire, and that's a video that I did with Paul Crane and Midge Rosebrook a couple of years ago. If you're planning to go to Lancaster, New Hampshire to check out the museum, you also want to do some trail riding while you're there. The museum is right on the trail, and you want to stay at the Lancaster Motel. The Lancaster Motel is walking distance of Crane's Snowmobile Museum. They're also right on the trail. So be sure to check out the Lancaster Motel and Crane's Museum. Now let's get into the next item on the menu here. We have a show and tell with some images that were submitted by viewers. Now I must say I have an embarrassment of riches this week. A lot of people emailed me with images to share on the program, and I wanted to thank each and every one of them. Now, I wanted to also say that if you've got something you'd like to send me, let me pull up my email address here. I'll have it on the screen. Now, if you have images, videos, events, sleds for sale, anything like that you'd like me to share on this podcast, my email address is right there on your screen. Just send an email to vintagesnowmobilelovers@gmail.com, and I would love to share that on the program. So let me change screens here, and I'm going to queue up the images that have been shared with me this week. Take a look. Here we go. So there you have it. As you can see, my cup runneth over with an embarrassment of riches of all of those images. I wanted to thank each and every person who sent me those images over the last week. I really, really appreciate it. And if you're watching tonight, I hope that you got a look at the images that you sent me. And again, I'm going to put that banner up. If you've got images or anything you'd like me to see, anything you'd like me to share on this podcast, check out the email address on your screen there, vintagesnowmobilelovers@gmail.com. Send it on over to me and I will include it on the next podcast. Now let's check the comments real quick, see how we're, oh, Steve Dickinson is on. How you doing, Steve? I sent you an email over the last week. I hope you got it. I'd love to have you on the podcast sometime soon, live and in real time. I know you've got some amazing sleds that everyone would like to see. And let's see what we've got next here. We've got a video coming up from the Goffstown, New Hampshire Vintage Snowmobile Show a couple of years ago. Now, if you're ever in the Goffstown area in October, they have a wonderful show every year. I'm still waiting on the exact date for the upcoming show for next October. That is a wonderful show. Let's take a look at Doug Cower's Kawasaki collection.
Yeah, my name's Doug. My snowmobile here is the 440 LTD Invader. It's called the 4/6. And the reason for the 4/6, it's 4 plugs. That's 2 plugs per cylinder into 6 ports. That's how it's got its name, 4/6. This was the only year that they made this. They only made it 1 year, as you can tell, limited production. And she only has 557 original miles on her.
Wow.
Everything's original on this. I got a helmet for the year.
Sorry, go ahead.
I got the original, I even got the original cover for it.
Wow.
And if you want, I can open up the hood.
Yeah, I'd like to see that with a twin spark.
Yep. You can see right there.
Wow, let me come around the other side. That's amazing.
2 plugs per cylinder. And the 6 ports in each of the cylinders. That's how it's got its name, 4/6.
Yeah. I bet that'll get up and
the
go.
radiator, instead of it standing up, the radiator actually lays down.
Yeah.
That's why they had this, and it's 2 pipes instead of the 1.
That's amazing.
And that's why they got this kind of bulge right here.
Oh, sure, yeah.
Yep. That's kind of like why you see that bulge.
Yeah. That's amazing.
She's all original.
Nice. That's amazing. Now, what about this other one? What can you tell me about this other one?
Well, that's my 79. It's only got, that's all original too. It's only got 1,700 miles on it. Everything's original on this, you can tell, but this was ridden.
Sure, yeah.
You can see the guy put like little things on the bottom, the plastic.
The skins, like?
Yeah.
Yeah.
This one's pretty fast. That one's a lot faster.
Really?
And you can just see the difference in them.
Yeah.
Look at this one. See, the radiator stands up.
Yeah.
1 plug.
And a single pipe.
Yep. And
Yeah.
only 1 pipe.
Yeah, I bet the power is enormously different, huh?
Oh yeah.
Wow.
Totally opposite.
That's wild.
What's cool about these is a pop-up headlight.
Oh, yeah. Nice.
Pop that down. Keep from banging this up, which it already has. I always pull it back and then clip it.
Yes, yeah.
Same thing on this.
Nice.
You can see the stance on them. Like, you see the stance, how low that is? That one's higher up.
Yes, yeah.
Yep. That was the difference in the ride. They actually improved the ride. They called it a bearable ride suspension.
Variable ride?
Yep, bearable.
Variable ride, yeah.
Or
Nice.
berry. I think they just shortened it, berry ride.
Sure. But a noticeable difference in handling and
Oh yeah.
nice. Wonderful. Well, thank you very much.
Yep.
Okay, so we're back, and I need to ask a favor of some of you. If you can make a comment for me in the comment area, let me know how that video was playing. From my end here on the interface, it looked like the video was choppy. Both the video and the audio was choppy. Let me know what that was looking like on your end. Was the video and the audio fine? Was it choppy? Let me know what that was looking like for you. I'd really appreciate it, because if I'm having trouble with that, I can load the videos manually, which is a little more cumbersome, but we would at least have good solid video and audio with it. So if you could leave a quick comment for me, let me know what the quality of that video was. Was it choppy or was it smooth? Were you having audio with that? Let me know what that was like for you if you could. While I'm waiting for some comments, I'm going to take a look at a couple of sleds for sale. We're in the sleds for sale segment now. This is our menu here. We're on item number 4, the sleds for sale. Now, if you have vintage snowmobiles for sale, I'm going to share them with the audience here on the podcast for free for the rest of this month, and maybe into the first or second week of December, as I'm building up the following with this podcast. At some point, I will have to charge for it, just because it's very time consuming to do this, and I need to be able to offset my costs. But here's a 1972 Johnson ski horse. It's a 30 horsepower J30 model. It's in great condition with electric start, has reverse and neutral. It has underseat storage, and it's always been stored inside. And there's a windshield that's included with it. The windshield is not on the sled in this image, but there's a windshield that comes with it. Now, if you're curious about this sled, call David in Highland, Michigan. The phone number is on your screen there, 248-821-3283. Let's take a look at this sled from another angle. And as I mentioned, if you've got a snowmobile for sale, I'll post it on here for free. I'll make a nice graphic. As you can see, I've got kind of the black border around it and the white lettering with the description, the name, and the phone number. I'll do that for you for free here for the next few weeks. Like I said, at some point, I'll have to start charging for that, just because this is very time consuming to do this. And I do need to offset my costs a bit, but it'll be a very modest expense. And I'll give you an example. It would be $10 to air your sled like this. I'll make a graphic for you. $10 to have it on one episode of the podcast, $20 for 3 episodes. So it's a very reasonable cost. At some point, I'll need to start charging, but while I'm working the bugs out of the podcast, I'm going to do it absolutely free. Now, let's take a quick look in the comments and see what people are thinking. Yes, Bombard, Floyd, and Lisa says very choppy from Lake George, New York. Thank you for letting me know. Now, Doug Reinstra says it was fine. Bobby Vensis says looking good. Mark Morotsky says it was looking good. Wayne Asp says it looks good. Dave Siniff. Mark Neerdals. Mark, did you see the image of your sled in there? He said there's some noise coming over there. Some wind noise. And Fred Schimmel says some wind noise. Gregory Robinson, Isaac. I'm going to have a hard time with your last name, Isaac Isiagatok, or Isiagatok, maybe? David Doyle loves the Raiders. Good deal. All right, well, let's move on to the next segment of the program. I appreciate the feedback on that. And on this next video, leave comments if you would, if it's choppy or if it's playing fine, so I can know whether or not to load the rest of them manually. Because especially this next segment, this is very important. My good friend Ed Staab was inducted into the Eastern Snowmobile Racing Hall of Fame a couple of years ago, and I'd like you to take a look at the induction ceremony when he was inducted that day. Take a look, and while this is playing, like I said, leave comments in the comment section as to how this is playing, whether it's choppy or whether it's fine. Let's take a look.
Edward Staab, racer promoter, inducted into the Eastern Snowmobile Racing Hall of Fame 2018. In 1968, 12-year-old Ed Staab begged Agway owner and Skidoo dealer Faye Cavlin to please let him help work on the machines. He was so convincing, Cavlin let him. In 1971, Ed joined the Explorer Post 505, whose sponsor was the USSA. His troops sold food and many of the USSA sanctioned races. Ed began racing snowmobiles in 1974 and a 1974 Polaris 340, and again in 1975. He co-owned the 1976 Mercury 250 Snow Twister and helped sponsor a later rider who to drive it, and it took many first-place trophies that year. Ed began grooming trails and repairing rental sleds for the Northwest Passage Hotel. It was here that he rented the workshop, calling it the Outpost, started selling used snowmobiles, and was a Parts Unlimited dealer until 1981. In 1979, Ed built his first racetrack at the Northwest Passage Hotel. He was not only involved in putting the race on, he also raced to second place finish. He saw the first New York Vintage Sled race in 2002, was a member of the board in 2003, took over as chairman of the New York Vintage Sled Racing from 2004 to 2015. Under Ed's leadership, over racing enjoyed a resurgence in interest not seen since the 1970s. Ed ran 8 100-mile endurance races on several New York lakes for 7 years. Ed Staab was named Grand Marshal for the 2011 Boonville Snow Festival. He hosted his first vintage snow in Boonville, New York in 2005 with 176 entries. Ed was host of the first national show at Boonville in 2010 with 254 entries. He was a judge at the national show at St. Anne's, Michigan in 2012. He hosted the second national show at Boonville, New York with almost 500 entries. Was a judge at Midland, Michigan National Show in 2015. Ed helped at the national show in Lancaster, New Hampshire in 2016. Ed was key in the enormous success of the 2014 50th Lancaster Grand Prix reunion race. He brought his entire staff, all working pro bono for this and every Grand Prix since.
I'm going to keep it short. It's been a pleasure to come up here to New Hampshire to put on the races that we do. The credit that you guys are giving me is very nice, but you know, when you run an organization like we have, it's not just me. It's my helpers, my track directors, all the guys that come and help me put on these races. Without them, you can't do it. I mean, the 100-mile races, I had to have somebody go out and build those tracks. You had to have somebody sitting out there all day, making sure guys didn't cut corners, you know. That's a long day of sitting there. You can't do it without help, and you got to have good help. The flagmen to stay out there all day and flag the races and stuff. The girls to sit out there and score the racers. They sit out in the cold to watch those guys. If it's 30 below, that's where they're sitting, you know. So, like I say, I'm honored to have this, but I want everybody to know that it takes a lot of people to run something like this and keep it going. And Mitch, Paul, the only thing I can say about Paul, he has a good shirt.
Every spoke wheel needs a hub.
My name is Ed Staab. I'm from Boonville, New York. I run the northern division of the vintage snowmobile racing. I put on the races up here in Lancaster, New Hampshire. I've been involved in racing for 15 years. I think that this Hall of Fame is a great thing. It recognizes the people that are involved, but you also have to recognize the people that help us, because without the people that help us, we wouldn't have it. I started racing back in the 70s, and then I realized it was a little too big to race, so I decided I would start promoting and putting on races. We put on 100-mile races, we put on cross-country races, and we put on the ice ovals.
And we're back. That's my friend Ed Staab being inducted into the Eastern Snowmobile Racing Hall of Fame back in 2018. He is a very accomplished promoter. He's one of the great promoters of the East. If you've been to the Boonville races or the Lancaster Grand Prix, he's had a very big hand in a lot of those events. By the way, the Eastern Snowmobile Racing Hall of Fame, the next induction ceremony is this coming September the 11th, 2021 at 1 p.m. Eastern Time. It's going to be at Crane's Snowmobile Museum in Lancaster, New Hampshire. Don't miss it. That event just gets bigger and better every single year. And the really nice thing about these induction ceremonies is they have an after party over at the Lancaster Motel, where you can meet and greet and visit and ask questions and approach the inductees, not just the inductees that were inducted that day, but a lot of the former inductees from previous years show up for this, and people who will one day be inducted. So if you were a fan of racing from back in the day, Eastern racing, this is the place to be, where you can schmooze and get to meet and visit with all of these great names of racing. And of course, the after party is at the Lancaster Motel, and if you're planning to attend the event, the Lancaster Motel is the place to stay. It's just walking distance from Cranes Museum, and then of course the after party is right there at the motel, so you don't want to miss any of that. I wanted to thank everyone who made comments while this last video was playing. I appreciate that. They said that it looked good, sounded good, and it looked better from this end as well. So maybe it was just that one video that was choppy. But let's take a look at some. Where are we in the program here? Let's take a look at some upcoming vintage snowmobile events. Now, this is the Lancaster Snow Derby in Lancaster, New Hampshire. Let's look at the dates. There are 4 Lancaster races, 3 races in Stratford, and 1 in Lisbon. This is the list of dates for that upcoming race series. And of course, if you're planning to attend this, just down the road is the place to stay. That would be the historic Lancaster Motel. Not many of you may know this, but years ago, during the Grand Prix in the 60s and 70s, they used to have the awards ceremony right there at the Lancaster Motel. So what is next on the program here? Now we've got Kevin Lussier's Vintage Racing Yamaha Snowmobile. We're going to take a look at that. Let me get it queued up. Let's take a look at Kevin's snowmobile.
Name's Kevin Lussier, Highgate, Vermont. 75 GPX 433. Ice drag sled.
Nice. So that's what, a 433?
433.
Nice. Yeah, and you had that running real good a minute ago. That's nice.
Yeah, we'll see when it goes down the track.
Sure. Well, good. Thank you, guys. Nice meeting you. Yeah, so that was Kevin Lussier's Racing Yamaha. He was doing some ice drags there in Newport, Vermont a couple of years ago, and he did real well with that sled too. Now, before we move on, I wanted to give a quick shout out to Brett Esseltine. He shared some contacts in his Rolodex with me earlier in the week, and I wanted to thank him for doing that. We've got some really interesting things coming up in the weeks ahead. So be sure to tune into this every Thursday night. I've got some really nice interviews lined up. I've got some people I'm going to bring on live to share, to show their restoration shops and their man caves with vintage snowmobiles and things like that. And if you know of anyone who has either a restoration shop or a shop full of sleds or a man cave with a vintage snowmobile theme, anything like that, anyone you think should be on here that everyone would where everyone would enjoy looking at their sleds and their collection and their projects that are in the works, finished projects, barn finds, things like that, please email me, vintagesnowmobilelovers@gmail.com. I'll put that email address on again. That's vintagesnowmobilelovers@gmail.com, and I would love to contact them to see if they might like to come on here live. And that's the thing, you can come on here live with your cell phone. All you need is the Chrome browser on your cell phone, and I can patch you in here live, and you can show us your man cave or your shop with your projects, racing sleds, anything that you've got that would be of interest to vintage enthusiasts. Likewise, if you have a business that caters to people who enjoy vintage snowmobiles, we could patch you in live and you could talk up your business. If you've got a restoration shop or anything like that, it's a great opportunity to do that. And the rates are very favorable while I'm working the bugs out of this podcast and building up a following. Once I get this build up over the next few months, I will be charging more for it. But in these early days, this is your opportunity to get in on the ground floor and help me experiment with this program, experiment with the content. And along that line, I wanted to give you an update. I've been working with the folks at the Lancaster Motel. We're collaborating. Vintage Snowmobile lovers and the Lancaster Motel are collaborating together on this Facebook page, Snowmobile City, USA. The link is in the description. Now, this is a page for people who enjoy modern and vintage snowmobiles. And the other thing we're doing is we're working with some people in Lancaster, New Hampshire, to get some historic images. And we've got some good contacts, and we're working on getting those images here as we speak. And we'll be posting them over the next few weeks. Now, if you're not familiar with the history of Lancaster as it pertains to snowmobiles, the first Ski-Doo snowmobiles were exported into the U.S. through Lancaster. And the gentleman you saw at the Cranes Snowmobile Museum on that video a little while back, he was involved with the first Ski-Doos that came into the U.S. In fact, he was the first American in the U.S. or Canada to ride a Ski-Doo snowmobile. So Lancaster has an incredibly rich history when it comes to snowmobiling, past and present. And this Facebook page will be featuring images, newspaper clippings, memorabilia, things from the colorful history of Lancaster. So if you're curious about that, if you wanted to see some of the history of this, of snowmobiling in the U.S., much of it began in Lancaster. This is the page where you want to go to check that out. And we put new information on there each and every day. So please come on by, join in the fun on that page. It already has over 250 fans just in the last couple of weeks, and we'd love to have you join in the fun with us on that. So what do we have next on the menu here? We have Paul Bellefeuille's 1976 Mercury Snow Twister. And if you watch any of my videos, Paul Bellefeuille is no stranger to you. He's one of my favorite guys to do videos with. And as you watch this video, you will see why. He's got an impressive collection. He loves to talk them up. And he shares a lot of information as he talks them up. Let's meet Paul.
Hi, my name is Paul Bellefeuille. I'm here in Derby, Vermont, today at a snowmobile show. And I'm here with this Mercury Snow Twister, 1976 Mercury Snow Twister, 340cc water-cooled engine. It was built specifically for racing. They made the engine in three sizes, 250, 340, and 440, all with the same chassis. And they built 550 of each engine size. The machine is made to turn left. As you can see, we have a loop handlebar here with an angled handlebar. So when the skis are turned left, the handlebar is basically straight. It has a 2-gallon gas tank, basically for to lighten the sled up, and you'll be only racing for 5 or so laps. So that's all the gas you would need. It's a 2-cycle engine, and you have to mix the gas and the oil together and put it in the tank. The only electrical component on this is the kill switch. And we have a tachometer, electric tachometer, that tacks out at 12,000 RPM.
Wow. That's some high revs.
Very high revs. Also, let's talk about the construction of the snowmobile. We have an aluminum chassis, again, lightweight. We have a plastic belly pan, fiberglass hood, very thin fiberglass. We have an aluminum ski, and we have a cleat track suspension without any shock absorbers.
Wow.
Because basically you're on flat track, ice track, you don't need any suspension.
So it eliminates more weight.
Exactly.
Nice.
This snowmobile weighs approximately 300 pounds.
Wow.
Very lightweight. And a very short chassis, as you can see, and it was designed to turn left, and it turned left because of the short wheelbase. It did an excellent job with that. So in all 3 classes for 1976, it dominated every class. The sled to own in 76, if you wanted to win, was a Mercury Snow Twister.
So that was Paul Bellefeuille's 1975 Mercury Snow Twister. That is an incredible sled. That's a racing version, and he has an incredible collection of racing Yamahas, and he's got the Snow Twister, and he's got a whole host of wonderful sleds in really nice condition. Just a truly impressive collection, and a great guy to talk to, and he's so knowledgeable as far as the information he shares about these sleds. Now, before we get into the next segment here, I wanted to take a look at the comments. And looks like we've got a few. Steve Freeman, we need smell-o-vision for the two-stroke. Absolutely. Bombard, Floyd, and Lisa, I believe you're asking about the Snow Twister? Or were you asking about the Yamaha? The Yamaha was ice racing, ice drags. I'm sorry, the Mercury Snow Twister, I'm not sure. I imagine that was ice oval, but I'm not 100% positive. I'll have to ask Paul at some point about that, and I'm sure he'd be happy to tell us. Mark Marotsky says everything looks fine. Fred Schimmel, how you doing? Mark Deerdahl said he saw the sled. Hey, Tony. Hey, Steve. Sean from Alberta. Outstanding. Now, before we get to the last video here, I wanted to tell you that next Thursday, mind you, we have these podcasts every single Thursday night, so be sure to tune in at 9 p.m. Eastern Time for these podcasts. Now, next Thursday, of course, is Thanksgiving Day. I'm going to do a podcast, but it's going to be a different format since I'll be busy celebrating the holiday with my family. I'm going to air a pre-recorded interview that I did with Midge Rosebrook. Now, Midge Rosebrook is the founder of the Eastern Snowmobile Racing Hall of Fame. And he's going to tell us the backstory on that, how he came up with the idea for the Eastern Snowmobile Racing Hall of Fame. He's going to tell us about some of their activities, what they have planned for the future, and we're going to take a very deep dive into the topic of Eastern racing. So don't miss that. That is next Thursday, Thanksgiving Day, 9 p.m. Be there to check that out, and as well as every other Thursday as well. Now, before we play the last video, I wanted to just say this is a live podcast I did a couple of years ago at the Washington Snow Flyers Vintage Snowmobile Rally in Washington, Vermont. They have this show the first Saturday of January every year, and you don't want to miss this show if you're in Central Vermont. It's a great show. Now, I'm waiting to hear from them for confirmation that they're going to have it this coming January, just because with COVID and everything, I want to make sure that they're planning to have it. But for now, plan that they are, and just kind of check in on the Washington Snow Flyers Facebook page for word otherwise that they may not be having it. It's on Lowry Road, Carpenter Field, if you're looking to try to GPS on how to get there. It's a wonderful show. And this show from, I think it was 3 years ago, they had a scaled down show because they had to change the date because of the weather. So this show was very much scaled down. But in future installments of this podcast, I'll show you the much larger version of that show. But regardless, whether it's a scaled down show or the full experience, it's a great show. And by the way, this is my good friend Robert LeFevres. We're going to look at an interview with him. This is the day I met him, and he and I have become really good friends. We're always in touch on Facebook, sharing jokes and everything, and just a great guy. And he's got some really nice examples. So without further ado, let's take a look at Robert LeFevres' sleds.
We're here looking at some of Robert LeFevres' sleds. He's got the two ski-doos here. What can you tell us, Robert, about these sleds? Did you want to be in the shot or rather be behind? Or?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's fine.
Well, the one on the right is a 69 TNT. It's got a 340 single in it, modified pipe, modified suspension. Hood's been carved out. I pretty much built the sled myself. Runs good, does about 8,000 RPM. It's pretty fast for an old sled, probably about 60 miles an hour.
60.
Yep.
That is fast.
Yep.
Nice, nice. So get a couple different angle on this. Now, is that the original suspension, or is that a slide suspension put in after? Or?
That's a slide suspension that I built myself. Mismatched bunch of pieces.
Nice.
To fit the chassis.
Nice. And then this
a lot of machine work to get it to fit in there.
I'll bet, yeah.
Yeah.
And then this TNT is yours as well?
Yes, this is a 76 Snow Pro clone. It's got a repop Snow Pro hood. That sled there is sort of home built myself too. It's got a jack shaft conversion in it, modified 345 rotary valve, motor, crankshaft pipes. Another homemade suspension I did myself. I did the seat. Actually, both of these sleds were built for racing.
Nice. Have you had them on the track? Have you had a chance to race them?
I've had both on the track. Never could get this one quite to perform right because I can't get an airbox on it.
Yep.
Because of the interference with the carburetor throat and the jack shaft.
Yep.
It's too close.
Sure.
So anytime I'm getting snow up in there, it doesn't want to rev.
Sure.
This one here runs really well. Was very competitive. Although I probably won't race anymore as I'm kind of getting up there in age.
I hear that. Totally. So we've got somebody viewing this. Les French is watching this. He's wondering if you can fire up the TNT so we can hear it. Are you up for doing that?
This one?
Yeah, the TNT. We're doing this for Les French. We've got 28 viewers right now watching this live. Oh, yeah. Vermont on Lowry Road. The Washington Snow Flyers are hosting an event today. It's a vintage snowmobile rally. If you're in central Vermont, come on by and check it out. Have fun with us. If you're not in the area, be sure to monitor the Facebook page throughout the day. We're going to be doing live podcasts throughout the day. And if you know people who you think might like this, vintage snowmobile enthusiasts, share this on their profile. Share this podcast on their profile or tag them so that they can see it. Also, if you feel like it, share it on your own profile. And we thank you for watching. We're going to shut down this podcast, but keep monitoring the Facebook page. We'll be doing them throughout the day. So thank you for viewing.
All right, so there you have it. That was Robert LeFevres' Ski-Doo collection. Keep an eye out for Robert if you go to any of the Vermont or New Hampshire vintage snowmobile shows. He's a familiar face there. He usually brings those sleds, so it's a great chance to see those sleds. Now, a couple of quick things. I wanted to check the comments. Judy Rinaldi is on here. If you watched our first podcast a couple of weeks ago, you saw her being inducted into the Eastern Snowmobile Racing Hall of Fame, the first woman to be inducted into the Eastern Snowmobile Hall of Fame. And also, I think one of the few racers, man or woman, to win, I think it was 10 world championships. Just an incredibly accomplished racer. So if you're on here, give a shout out to Judy. Say hi to Judy. Also, Diane Baker's on here. Stacy and Art Fosler from New York State are here. Thank you for the compliment. And I also wanted to give out Also wanted to give a shout out to some of our collaborators. That would be Crane's Snowmobile Museum in Lancaster, New Hampshire. They have a wonderful museum over there. Be sure and visit them. And if you're planning to go to the museum, you also want to stay at the Lancaster Motel, giving a shout out to our good friends over at the Lancaster Motel. Also, the New Hampshire Snowmobile Museum. This is at Bear Brook Park in Allenstown, New Hampshire, just outside of Concord, New Hampshire. That Snowmobile Museum is very much worth a look as well. And then, of course, we have the Eastern Snowmobile Racing Hall of Fame. Great organization, and it just grows bigger and bigger every year. It's really catching on. Now, if you're planning to attend their next induction ceremony or would like to, it's going to be Saturday, September 11th, 2021 at 1 p.m. Eastern Time. Location will be at Crane's Snowmobile Museum in Lancaster, New Hampshire. And if you're planning to attend, if you're driving from any distance away, call now and book your room at the Lancaster Motel, because they will fill up that motel for that event. So book now. Make sure you're going to have a room, and you're going to be able. The Lancaster Motel is walking distance from the induction ceremony at Crane's Snowmobile Museum, and the after party is right at the Lancaster Motel. So you can attend the party, have a good time, and then when you're finally tired of everything, just go off to your room, just a few steps to your room, and settle down for the night, for a long winter's nap, so to speak. So yes, I believe that's all we've got for you. I'm going to leave you with this video about the Mad Ramps product. If you're curious about these Mad Ramps, click the link in the description. If you order your Mad Ramps through me, I'll send you some free vintage snowmobile DVDs. Let's take a look at the Mad Ramps product.
It's the ultimate combination of simplicity and ingenuity. The newest way to load, unload, and transport your ATV or UTV. The Mad Ramps Pivoting Ramp System. Made in the USA and engineered for strength and durability. Maneuver through tight places and over rugged terrain with plenty of ground clearance. No licensing, no ongoing maintenance costs, and no storage hassles like trailers. Won't slip or move like conventional ramps. Free up more cargo space in the bed of your truck. Securely connects to your truck's receiver hitch. Easily extends for safe loading and unloading. Seamlessly retracts for highway and off-road travel. DOT approved in all 50 states and Canada. Quickly disconnects in under a minute. A unique space-saving storage system. The Mad Ramps Pivoting Ramp System. Go farther. Go faster. Go safer.
When you order using the link in the description, I'll send you 3 free vintage snowmobile DVDs. When you order using the link in the description, I'll send you 3 free vintage snowmobile DVDs.